the vehicle. Since all four wheels, its suspension and drives were identical, it was enough to qualify it on one system. So it consisted of the wheel itself, the suspension, the steering system, the wheel drive, and it was operated over a treadmill, a rolling road facility, which was equipped with different types of obstacles. We ran this 1.5 times the postulated distance, which was 75 miles, under the simulated mission condition in low and high temperatures, different speeds, accelerating, braking, and the rolling road could be moved laterally so that different obstacle configurations were encountered. In addition to those test vehicles I mentioned, we also built a training vehicle. This was designed for Earth gravity condition, so all the wheels, drives, steering, suspension had to be much stronger, but otherwise, configuration-wise, identical to the final vehicle, and the astronaut vehicle interface could be properly evaluated. And all the astronauts were practiced on this training vehicle prior to leaving Earth. This one shows 2 fully clothed astronauts with all their equipment on board using this training vehicle. Now, once arrived to the moon, the vehicle had to be taken out of the storage compartment, and we designed this deployment system such that the astronaut did not have to do any major physical effort. So by just pulling a string, they activated in sequence a series of spring-loaded hinges so that the vehicle chassis, first the front chassis and wheels opened up, and then the rear chassis and wheels opened up, and finally it was lowered to the surface. The whole deployment took about 15 minutes, and it was accomplished without a hitch all 3 times. Finally, they arrived to the moon. They checked out the vehicle, and here on Apollo 15, the commander was taking a picture of Jim Irwin. Dave Scott was the commander on the Apollo 15 program, and they were ready to go out on their first of 3 sorties. Here, one of the astronauts is putting some of the payloads, science equipment on board the vehicle. You can see the tracks. The vehicle was already checked out before going out on their first sortie. They spent 3 days on the moon. After each day, they went back into the lunar landing module for sleeping, and then came out for the second and then third sortie. This photo was taken by the Apollo 15 astronaut with the Hadley Mountain in the background. It was one of the largest, tallest mountain on the moon, and scientists were very much interested to get close and take samples from that area. This photo was taken on the last rover, Apollo 17. And Apollo 17 carried along the one and only scientist astronaut who was a geologist, Harrison Schmitt, who was the first and so far the only man, human, to touch an out-of-world area and chipping samples out of rocks and so on. And he was enjoying every minute of it. NASA had a hard time to get him moving to the next station. This is a summary of the performance compared with the planned performance of the rover. It travels just about the distance was planned, since they have maps and follow the maps very truly. They collected a large amount of samples, about twice as much as was planned, especially the Apollo 17 guys. The scientists went really wild in collecting and bringing home samples. As an interesting comment, you know, after the samples were returned, the US government provided small samples to many countries around the world for their evaluation. Now, if in one small country, the sample was stolen and was offered for sale for $1 million. So imagine how much that 515 pound of sample would worth. The maximum speed was planned to be about 9 miles per hour. The capability was 10, which they actually exceeded in one of the sorties. The astronauts were very comfortable driving the vehicle, and they really pushed it to the limit, both in speed as well as climbing slopes and going over obstacles and the rough terrain. They did drive as high as 15-degree slopes, as was indicated on the maps. The wheel didn't sink much, between 1/2 inch and 2 inches, depending on the softness of the soil. The wheel slip was very, very small, only 2% slip, which over an off-road, rough terrain vehicle is fairly remarkable. And finally, the energy usage was less than we actually allocated based on our simulation program. Well, next time when there is a full moon and you look up, look at the point just above the center line of the globe, and you can visualize the 3 rovers parking on the moon, as shown with the red dots. Now, they will be there forever and pretty much intact, because there is no atmosphere, no moisture. Therefore, the metal parts will survive pretty much forever. Of course, you would have to carry a new battery and electronics if you want to run it again. Your grandchildren may have the opportunity as tourists to go up there, visit these sites, kick the tires, and have a nice experience up on the moon. Okay, now this is the end of my slide presentation, and now I would like to show a very brief video showing the rover actually riding around on the moon. We were successful in persuading NASA and the astronauts that on the Apollo 16